In today's video, I'm going to go through how you can build this mortgage calculator to help you understand how much money you could be saving on your mortgage if you're making extra payments. And I know right now mortgage rates are higher than they typically have been over the last couple of years. And so the idea of paying off your mortgage early is becoming more and more relevant. And this may help you decide how much money you want to put, away towards your mortgage, extra payments to get your loan paid off early. In this sheet, it's very beneficial to see how much interest you could save and how much time you could be saving by making extra payments. And all of this works dynamically. So if we take a look at extra payments and we increase this to something quite substantial, we can see by making these extra payments how much quicker our principal outweighs our interest and how much time we're actually saving over the life of our loan. So in this case, if we made extra payments, we could be saving 10 years of payments or $300,000 on our mortgage and interest. It'll also give us our new payoff date based on our original payoff date, our total payments, savings rate based on the original cost of the loan compared to how much we would end up paying with the extra payments. So in a lot of ways, this is very beneficial for anyone that does have a mortgage and seeing how much you could save and making better decisions when it comes to your money, whether you're going to invest that money or put it towards your mortgage, or you could be doing some of both. I'm going to walk you through step by step how to build this, and it's going to take some time, but we'll go through step by step. We'll do all the formatting, we'll do all the formulas, and get everything set up properly. So in order to do so, I'm going to set up a new sheet. I'm going to rename the sheet Mortgage Calculator. And from here, we're going to enter in just some of the text spaces. But first is what I like to do is I like to resize the columns, some of these columns and rows. And I'll show you why in just a moment. It helps things look a little bit cleaner. And then I like to show the grid lines. We're going to remove the grid lines. And what we're going to do is we're going to highlight the first row and the first column, and we're going to color them in with a color that you prefer, whatever color you like. This is obviously on brand with my brand, but you can pick any color that you prefer. We're going to start with Mortgage Calculator as the title. Next, we're going to go Loan Details, then Loan Amount, Annual Interest Rate, and I'm going pretty quick, so you feel free to pause as needed if you're trying to follow along and build this out yourself. And then we're going to go Years. We're going to leave a space and then do Loan Summary, Monthly Payment, Number of payments, total interest, and then total cost of our loan. This is how much interest and principal you're going to be paying over the lifetime of your loan, and it may shock you how much more it is than your balance that you currently owe. Next is we're going to go monthly payments, but we're going to skip a space. Or monthly expenses. This helps you just keep an eye on how much you're paying in property taxes, how much you're paying in homeowners insurance. And then we're going to do PMI or an HOA fee. If you have either one of those, you can put that in the space next to it. Total payments. This is with your principal and your interest with your escrow. In other words, your homeowner's insurance and your property taxes and your PMI. Those are all the things that we're going to need there. We're going to skip column D. That's where all of our numbers will go once we get things formatted. Next to loan details, we're going to go into F4 and we're going to type in principal versus interest over time. This is where we're going to put our chart. And then in cell F17, so F17, we're going to put savings. Below savings, we're going to put interest saved. This will show us how much we've saved in interest by making extra payments. And then we're going to put time saved. This will show us how much time we're going to save by making extra payments if we choose to do so. And then we're going to do original payment payoff date. And then the new payoff date based on any extra payments that we might be making. Next to that, we're going to do total payments and savings rate. This is basically the amount we save based on the total cost of our loan on the extra payments. Then we're going to do a row. This will give our amortization schedule. So we're going to do payment date, beginning balance, payment, principal, interest. This is where we're going to put extra payments. And if you want to go ahead and play around with this, you can say, okay, what if I paid off $1,000 a month extra? What would that do? How much time could I save? So it is a way that you could plan ahead. I also would like to use it as just a true kind of a keeping track of things live. So every month I go in and I update how much extra I'm putting towards my loan, and it helps me see how much I'm saving, which is awesome. And then we're going to do end balance, total principal, and then total interest. So this is how much interest we've paid up to this point in the lifetime of the loan. All right, from there, we could probably go ahead and do some more formatting. So I'm going to change these two rows here. Anything after these rows, I'm going to end up deleting just to keep things clean. This column M, I'm going to fill in. This leaves a nice little border around where we're trying to work. Keeps things clean, looks polished, which I prefer. So I'm going to change the color of that first cell there. And I'm going to increase the size of this. And all of the font, I like to use this font. It just feels better to me. It's what I prefer. But you can use any font that you like. I'm going to resize the row. I'm going to see what size looks good. I'm going to do 40. And then I'm going to make sure that this is centered so it looks good. There we go. And everything else I'm going to make sure is the same font, which it is. That's good. And then here I'm going to fill this in. Change my colors, bold this. What I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to do formatting, alternating colors, and then my header I'm going to make this darker color. I'm going to do the same thing on all the rest of these sections. So I'm going to do alternate format, alternating colors. I'm going to bold, make the text white. Let's do it again. Format, alternate colors, dark. I guess you could just select what's already up here. That works too. Change the color. We don't want to change all the, just want this one white and bolded. That looks better. And then we want to do the same thing here. Format this section with alternating colors, savings. I'm going to turn white and bold it. So this is starting to look a little bit better. Inside of all the number cells, I'm going to just make them green so that they stick out a little bit better. So I'm going to fill that in with a lighter green. You can pick any green that you like or prefer. I'm actually going to update this section here as well. What I also like to do personally is put grid. So I'm going to do a white grid lines. This helps things feel like cards rather than everything just smashes together. So that's how it starts to look, and then you can merge a bunch of these cells so they look a little bit better. Need to merge this one, these two. As you can tell, it starts to feel a little bit better. I'm going to go ahead and create alternating colors here. If you hold Shift Command on a Mac, it will select all the way down to the bottom row that you have in your tab. That's pretty helpful. And then I'm going to go Format, Alternating Colors, and on this header, I'm going to leave this header so that it's a little bit lighter. I'm going to bold these, and then I'm going to center these sections here. So now we're starting to see that this is looking a little bit more polished, a little bit better looking, just after a few minutes. Let's go ahead and start entering in some of our data here, and it will help us see everything else. We're going to start here at the top, and we're going to do the loan amount. Let's say hypothetically it's 500K. We're going to want to format that as a number. Then we're going to do our interest rate. Let's say our interest rate, we get a 6%. So we're going to want to change that to a percentage. And then this is the loan duration in years. Typically, most mortgages are 15 or 30-year mortgages. In this case, we're going to do a 30-year for this example. Now, the monthly payment is what we're going to do is we're going to do equals PMT for payment. Then we're going to do the rate. So we're going to put D, and we're going to lock this in D6, which is our rate. And then we're going to divide that by 12 for months, comma, number of periods. That would be what we're going to put right here below. And then we're going to do a negative present value. And the present value would be what we currently owe on the loan, which is right here in D5. So we're going to lock in D5. Obviously, it's going to give us an error until we enter the number of payments. The number of payments on 30-year mortgage is 360 months. So that gives us our monthly payment. From there, we're going to calculate the total cost of the loan. So this is going to be equals D10, which is our monthly payment. Multiply that by the number of payments that we're going to make. Gives us the total cost of our loan. Now we know our balance is $500,000 at this point, but with the interest that we're going to be paying at 6% over 30 years, we're going to be paying over $1 million. And that does sometimes shock people, but it's important to understand these things so you know how much, when you're making extra payments, how much you can influence the total cost of your loan. Then we're going to go to total interest, and we're going to do equals our total cost minus our loan amount. It gives us how much we're going to pay in interest. So we actually pay more in interest on our loan at 6% than we would with the balance that we currently owe. So that's that section. Let's move on to the next one. So property taxes. This is something that you're going to have to just update every year. You'll get a statement from your mortgage lender that will have this number. But in this case, let's say our property taxes, let's say there's something like $2,000. It could vary quite a bit depending on where you live. Let's say our homeowner's insurance is $800. These numbers aren't as important. They're mostly just to keep an eye on how much you're paying total out of pocket each month. Let's say you don't really have any PMI or an HOA, so we'll just leave this as 0 as an example. Then we'll go ahead and add up what our total payment would be. So we'll go D16 plus D17 plus D18. And your property taxes and homeowners insurance, you could break that out. You typically break that out into your escrow, what you pay. You pay it into an escrow, and then they will end up paying your homeowners insurance and your property taxes if you still typically hold a loan. You don't have to do it that way, but it's usually pretty convenient. Most people do it, but that's a topic for another discussion. So we'll continue on. So we'll move into, and we're also going to add our monthly payment here. That way we are adding up what our total payment on $500,000 loan at 6% over 30 years with our monthly payment. This is principal and interest, and then this is with your escrow payment on a monthly basis. Awesome. Let's move into creating the amortization schedule so that we can see our potential savings, payoff dates, things like that. So let's go ahead and jump in. What we're going to do is we're going to put in a date here. Let's say our first payment is due this month. So we're still in January of 2026. Now we're going to just like to center this, and we'll delete this once we get back. Once we have everything that we need, we'll do February 2026 and then March 2026. And then from there, we'll go ahead and drag down. Now we want 360 payments, and we had about 20 rows above it. So we're going to go to about 380. And we know right here based on the count. If you don't see count, you can just click and change it to count. So we know we're off by 7. So now we take away 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and delete. What we're going to do now is we're going to delete everything below this. Delete. I'm going to add one row below, and then I'm going to shrink these two. Resize rows, and I always do 9. Not sure why I do 9, but I just always have. Might have to adjust the alternating colors here. Oh, no, we're good. Perfect. Okay, so now we have all the payment dates for the lifetime of our loan. What we're going to do next is the beginning balance. So in this case, we're going to do the beginning balance would be our loan amount. So we're going to do equals D5. We don't want to autofill because that will not give us what we want. I'm going to make sure everything is just centered off the bat. Perfect. Next in payment, we're going to do equals, and then we're going to do D10, our monthly payment, but we're going to want to lock that in. So I'm going to lock in D10. So that in this first cell, we're going to do D10. Our principal, we're going to do an if statement here, an if formula. If D, in this case, D22, so we're going to go if our beginning balance is greater than or equal to 0. If it's true, or if it's less than or equal to 0, then we're going to return 0. That's just because we want to, this will help us when we are making extra payments to return 0. And then we're going to do E22 minus G22, which is our interest. And we're going to close that. And then in our interest, we're going to do equals. And then we want to do D22, which is our beginning balance. Multiply that by D6 divided by 12, which is our rate divided by 12. So we're going to do, but we're going to want to lock that in. D6, lock that in, 6 divided by 12. So that's what we want there. It's going to give us an error for a minute. Let me just double check my work. Oh, D. I did DD. There we go. Perfect. There's our interest payment. Extra payment, this will be variable. This will be dynamic depending on how much we're paying on a monthly basis extra to our loan. So we'll update that on a monthly basis, or we'll update that within the sheet to mess around with it to see how much we're going to save over time. Our end balance, we're going to do equals D22. We can just do D22 minus F22, which is our principal, minus H22, which would be any extra payment that we make. That gives us all the payments that we make and gives us our end balance. Our total principal up to this point, obviously, is just going to be what we've made thus far. So it's going to equal F22. And then our total interest, same thing. We're going to pull just G22 on this row because that's all we've paid up to this point on our first payment. Next, on our beginning balance, we're going to continue on just one more row before we end up pulling things down. So we're going to do equals a max. And then we're going to look for 0, the max of anything between 0 and I22, our end balance. We're going to want to make all of these into, obviously, return with a $sign money formatting. So we're going to do on this payment, we're going to do an if. This is if D23, if the beginning balance is less than or equal to 0, then we're going to return 0. And if the min of our beginning balance plus our interest from last month, and then we're going to lock in E22 here. Lock in E22, which is our payment. Then we're going to close that out. So that's what our payment would end up being. We can pull this one down all the way to the bottom. Now you don't have to do these individually. You can do them. I'll probably do that next, so I'm not doing it this way. Perfect. And then under our principal, we can end up just pulling this one down. Okay, scrolling forever. And then I want to make sure, there we go. Pull this down. Pull. One more. There we go. And then our interest, we can pull that one down as well. I should have just pulled that earlier. I'm sure there's a faster way to do this. I'm pretty sure of it, but I don't know how to do it. So I do it the old-fashioned way. So here we're going to do equals. In this one, J22, our previous total principal, plus whatever we paid on our principal thus far. And then that one will be ready to pull down. And then this one will do K22, which is our total interest that we paid thus far, plus our interest we paid this month, which is G23. Then we're going to let's pull all this at the same time. Just want to make sure this works. I think it should work correctly. Pulling them all at the same time. Fingers crossed that works. Yep. Perfect. Okay. Now, under extra payments is where we can adjust things, but for now we're going to go back into our savings and start updating our savings items. So we're going to do D12. So we're going to do our total interest, D12, minus the sum of G22, which is our interest, to all the way at the bottom. We're going to close that. So at this point, we've saved $0 in interest because we haven't made any extra payment. If we made an extra payment of $100 on the first month, we would have saved $500. Now let's do the time save. This one is a pretty extensive formula. I will go ahead and I'll type it out so that you can just see it. So we're going to do if error, and then we're going to do quotient, and then we're going to do dated if, and we're going to lock in I-19. I got to type it, I-19. Then we're going to do a comma, and we're going to lock in C381, so C or our last payment date. Lock in 381. And then we're going to do a comma, quotation M. And then we're going to close the parenthesis in 12 and parenthesis years. And you'll see how this is formatted when we're done. Close parenthesis and mod parenthesis dated if, and we're going to lock in I-19 again. I lock in 19, and then we're going to lock in our last payment date again. So lock C381 again. M for the unit in months is what that is saying, 12 months. And close that parenthesis and then we want to do months, comma, 0 for return error. Now we don't have our original payoff date or our new payoff date, so that's why it's returning. We would save 155 years, which isn't the case. So we're going to do C381 for our original payoff date. And then we're going to do an if error index C22 here, C22, our first payment date, to C, basically the whole row or the whole column. And then we're going to do match 0, comma, I-22, which is down below I-22 to I. So our end balance column, comma, 0, close those parentheses, comma, I-18, which is our original payoff date. Just need to double check my work. If error, I need to index C22 to C, comma, match 0, I-22 to I, comma, 0, comma, I-18. Okay, let me just copy this in. I seem to be off on something. I'm obviously working off the side because if I didn't, I would not be able to remember all these things in one edit. So here we are. So our new payoff date is the same as our original payoff date because we've made little to no extra payments. If this was 15 grand, then our original, we need to format that properly, format number date. We would save 2 years and 3 months. I'm going to update this a little bit. there should be a space in there. And we'll help it look a little bit better. So let me go ahead and fix that. So now it's 2 years, 3 months. Then our total payments, we are gonna do, we're basically adding up the bottom two of what our total payout would be, or payment would be. Now, as you can see, because we made that $15,000 payment up front, you can see all the zeros here. So these are all the months we would have been paying principal and interest, but we're paying none, even though our total stays the same. So that's why we can keep total payments here. And then our savings rate on our total cost of our loan would be 1 minus what we just did here. And then we would divide that by D13, which is the original cost of our loan. Then we're going to make this into a percentage to see how much we would be saving on this total cost of our loan originally because of our extra payment that we made here. And personally, I like to change this to make it a lot more prominent of what I'm paying so that I can see it. It's super exciting to be paying extra, to be saving myself years, months, tens of thousands of dollars on my interest. We're going to input a chart right here. So we're going to select everything from payment date to interest, and we're going to do insert chart. It'll bring up a chart. We're going to want to change the chart here, and then we're going to want to leave payment date here, and then we're going to get rid of beginning balance. We're going to get rid of payment, and then we just want our principal and our interest. Now I'm just going to delete this here, and then I'm going to delete the headline as well. Our interest we can leave the same, and then our principal, I like to personally change that so that it's formatted a little bit better. And then I'm going to stick this in here so that it looks a little bit better. And we can resize some of these columns so they're not, some of these things aren't so squished in there. So let's resize this for you guys so you can see it a little bit better. This is what we got. So we've fully built out the dashboard, the spreadsheet that helps us calculate our mortgage. Essentially, the only things at this point you would need to update are your property taxes if they change year to year, and your insurance if it's changing. That will influence your escrow and your total payment. But really, we're focused on the total payment to principal and interest at this point. And we're looking at these two numbers. They're probably the two most important or exciting, at least for myself personally, to look at because of extra payments. And if we this is where we want to start figuring out, how much could we put extra to our mortgage. So if we change this to 250 extra, and we did it for quite some time, we would save $63,000 if we did it for 67 months, or we would shave off 2 years of our mortgage payments. So all this time here, we would have been paying our monthly payment of almost $3,000 on this loan, but we aren't because we made the extra payments. Now, again, you can go in, mess around and say, what if I could do this or that? Plug numbers in to see the changes. This is pretty unique. I don't see a lot of other sheets that can do this. And then once you make a payment, when you have all your details in here, start tracking it, tracking how much you're putting in each month and how that's influencing your mortgage. As I mentioned in the beginning, this is a lot more relevant in today's market with such high interest rates if you're buying a home, to just start deciding if you want to start putting a little bit extra money towards your mortgage payment on a monthly basis and help you see how much you could be saving. I think it's always fun to be tracking things and measuring how your wealth is adjusting, your net worth, how much time you're saving on your mortgage. And it would be awesome if you could even make a couple extra payments up front. The way this does work, because the amortization schedule is structured the way it is, the earlier you make the payment, it does influence things positively for you. So it is more important to make payments earlier rather than later. So for example, if you're going to wait till the end of the year and make a huge lump sum payment, it would actually be more beneficial to you to be splitting that payment up that you otherwise would have made at the end of the year to a monthly payment. Pay a little bit each month rather than try to save and then throw a bunch down at the end of the year. That will typically help you shave off more time of your loan. I hope that helps. If you have any questions about the sheet, how it works, anything that you see that could potentially make it better, I would love to hear it in the comments. Otherwise, I hope this is beneficial for you. If it is, and you feel like this could help you, I would ask that you just leave a like and subscribe for future videos where I'll walk through other opportunities to measure your wealth and improve your financial situation so that you could potentially be financially free sooner rather than later.